Hey everyone, welcome back to the AWS VPC series. So in this, I kind of left out one concept which I would like to cover right now. And the concept is called as AWS Network Firewall, pretty new, in terms of release. And it allows us to, protect our network from edge-related traffic. So this is a pretty amazing service because when you think about the difference in depth kind of strategy with AWS, NACLs, and then security groups within your VPC, and then probably even IP tables on the OS level that you could possibly have. This is the most outer layer of a firewall at the perimeter of your VPC. So the network firewall, it's stateful, it's highly managed and highly available by AWS itself. It's a network firewall, and it also acts as an intrusion detection and prevention service. So we would have heard about IPS, IDS related services when we would have studied cybersecurity in college. So this network firewall is also an intrusion prevention and detection system. So, it works based on the Suricata, which is an open source IPS system for stateful inspection. So when you create any stateful rules for this network firewall, you can also mention the format in Suricata format in terms of rules. And the network firewall, you can filter traffic at the perimeter of your VPC, which is pretty cool. So then all of the traffic that comes into your VPC is first inspected by the network firewall. And all of the traffic that goes outside of your VPC is also inspected by the network firewall. So this is the one that is on the edge or probably on the gateway side of things of your VPC. And then comes your NACLs and your security groups, where your NACLs are at a subnet level and your security groups are at a network interface level. And then you can also have OS level firewalls through IP tables and Windows firewalls and so on. So I hope you get the idea as to where your network firewall stands. If not, the next diagram will make it very clear for you. So in this diagram, you can see that we have dedicated a separate subnet within our VPC for the firewall. We call it as the firewall subnet, where we will have an firewall endpoint called as an interface endpoint powered by the gateway load balancer. So as a homework, I would like all of you guys to research upon the gateway load balancer. If not, in the EC2 section, we'll be covering the gateway load balancer. And then when you take a look at your customer subnet, this is actually a private or public subnet, depends on how you would like to have it. Let's consider this to be the public subnet. Any traffic that goes out of your public subnet in previous network architectures that we saw would only go directly through the internet gateway to the internet. But right now you can see that we also have a firewall subnet within which your network firewall is residing with a firewall endpoint, which means that all of your traffic that goes out of your public subnet, before it even reaches the internet gateway, it will be inspected by your network firewall. And then the traffic would be sent to the internet gateway, and then the traffic would be sent to the internet. And vice versa. When the traffic comes in from the internet, let's say that you would like to SSH into an EC2 instance in your public subnet, the traffic would come through the internet gateway, but then it would again be inspected by the network firewall that whether only from a specific ranges of IP address is your source traffic allowed to come in. And then you can go ahead and get your access onto your EC2 instance. So this is how, on a very basic level, the network firewall performs. So the firewall protects subnets within your VPC by filtering traffic going between the subnets and locations outside of your VPC. So inbound and outbound traffic is both inspected by the network firewall sitting at the edge of your VPC. So later I have a very nice architecture diagram with which this will become a lot more clearer for you when you have a public private subnet kind of architecture. But now let's take a look at the network firewall components. So in terms of the components, the network firewall, of course, has a firewall as one of the components, and the firewall is attached with a firewall policy, and the firewall policy can be attached to multiple network firewalls. The firewall policy consists of some policy-based conditions and also consists of something called as rule groups, which could either be stateful or stateless in nature. So you can do a lot of filtering in terms of whether you would like to allow traffic or deny traffic. You can also use the phi-based, tuple kind of rule sets where you specify the source IP, source port, destination IP, destination port, and whether you would like to allow or reject the traffic. You can also use domain-based filtering, where you can say that the traffic should not go from within your VPC to the outside world, probably to google.com or facebook.com. You would like to blacklist a specific set of domains, and that too when they are accessed on HTTP and HTTPS. That can also be done. Or if you're familiar with the Suricata rule format, you can also use the Suricata rule format for stateful inspection. And similarly, you can also have a stateless rule group where you specify the traffic as how you would do when you work with a NACL, a network access control list, which is also stateful, but on the subnet level, the same rules apply based on a rule priority order for a stateless rule group on your network firewall. So in terms of a small summary, the firewall is your network firewall that has an endpoint in each and every availability zone with a dedicated subnet to it for the, for to use with it. And then it has a firewall policy which consists of stateless and stateful rule groups, which allow you to mention specific conditions based traffic filtering and so on. So if suppose you launch your network firewall and you would like to inspect the traffic, you would like to get some logs from your traffic, what are the respective destinations to which you can send out your logs? You can send out your logs to S3. You can send it out to Kinesis data firehose on a near real-time basis. You can send it to CloudWatch log group also on a near real-time basis. So the network firewall can store its logs in S3, Kinesis data firehose, and CloudWatch log group. So with this, I hope you got an idea in regards to what network firewall is all about. I'll catch you in the next lecture where we take a look at a nice architecture diagram, and then I'll show you the implementation on the AWS console for the network firewall. I'll see you all in the next lecture.